on the north slope of Mauna Loa, on the Big Island of Hawaii. Just quick views. By the way, kind of a similar plan, but better organized than MDRS. The activity space and engineering space, cooking space is below, with the living rooms up above. Just a little bit of view. And it is a multifunction space. I mean, here I'm talking to JJ, who's going to give a really good presentation on biological experiments and whatnot. But you can see just a few feet away, some of my crew members are getting bendy because it's time to do exercise. And that's where you live for 2 weeks. That's the only private space you have for 2 weeks.
Yes.
And here we are doing some of JJ's swab studies. She'll talk more about that at her presentation. I encourage you to go to it. Let's look at Linares. Linares is located in west central Poland, west of Warszawa, north of Poznan, in a town of about 75,000 people called Sila. And it is a brilliant reuse of an abandoned Cold War hardened airplane hangar. That's what they use as their barge yard. And then they have a dome and some modular containers on the side, which comprises the habitat. And the old blast doors to get in and out of the hangar is the airlock. There's another view. Leszek Wojciechowski, the director of the facility, is here. You see him around. He's the guy I talked to about Linares. Just so you know. You can see the EVA area, the airlocks, and then the research station. Utility rooms, the analog astronauts don't go in there. That's where staff is. So. Let's look at actual pictures. Okay, this is in that central dome area, looking towards the airlock. And here we are, actually learning how to brush our teeth, because we were part of a study to use a certain type of toothpaste. Anybody who's been to Linares probably participated in the same study. Little sleeping nooks. Seems pretty cozy. And all the food at Linares is dehydrated. Sort of camp food meals that are prepared to just add water and eat, except for people who did culinary experiments, which was kind of. So we ate pretty well, right, JJ?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And pretty bare bones. That gives you an idea what the facility's like. Very adequate for 2 weeks. That's looking at the airlock. And, oh, yeah. That's day 12. That's I promise you, it's not as bad as it looks. I was trying really, really hard to get a good picture for Rochelle, because one of her art things. So I was trying to frame myself, and I'd like to forgot what was going on here. So. Okay, so type of research. A lot of analogs have baked-in research projects. If you go to high seas, Michaela's probably going to have you crawling around in lava tubes, digging up that weird white stuff that they don't know what it is. Linares has PIs doing like a dental study, stabilography study, but most people also bring their own research. Here's an example of an airlock SCADA system. Some of you who've been to high seas, it might still be there, being used, but they decided to deploy it there. Michaela Musilova and I are testing a laser beam communication system that sends sound signals over a laser beam. That is an ozone laundry brush. It's an experiment to use electricity instead of water and detergent to break down biological material in clothing in order to freshen it up. It doesn't remove stains, but it does make things less stinky so that you can wear them for a little bit longer. And everybody does growth studies. When I was at MDRS, we did a regolith growth study, and we chose a dwarf male sorghum cultivar and a Cascade hops cultivar to see if we could get them to germinate in Martian soil. Now, does anybody know why that might be important?
Yeah.
Got it in one. Those are two things you need to make beer on Mars. So, proof of concept. EVA construction. Trying to work through, because practice before you do it, how do you build things when you don't have any fine motor function in your gloves? You hear NASA astronauts talking about that a lot when they're on EVA trying to work on satellite systems or the ISS. A lot of people do experiments just trying to build things. What type of connectors work? What type of leverage do you need? And this is back under the water. We did some neurological studies. It's a very complex WABI system that puts you through a bunch of puzzle tests, and it listens to the neurons in your brain. And what we found was not what we thought we found. We thought that being under pressure, 1.6 atmospheres of pressure, would throw everybody off. We actually got faster, our neurons responded to things faster, but we used a lot more energy doing so. And then when we back up to the surface, we lost it again. Now, the sample size is too small for it to be statistically significant because there's only five of us on that mission, but it's very suggestive that there might be something going on there. So there's an ongoing course of research to look into that. And we'll skip through that. Okay. The weird thing about Neptune is you're under pressure, and it does strange things. Under 2 atmospheres of pressure, all of the air wants to be half the size. So we run into weird things in day-to-day life. So that on the left, that's one of my flip-flops. First day in, there was something poking at my toe, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and I took a close look. And the increased air pressure was enough that it squeezed the glue up in between the 2 layers of the flip-flop, so there were these little fingers poking at my feet. And then you also have to be aware of airspace management. Again, you fill something up full of air and take it back up at the surface, it wants to be twice as big. So for our supply chain, moving things up and down the water column to the habitat from resupply from the surface, coming down was great. They've got these water-resistant Pelican cases. And as you go down, there's more and more pressure pushing from the outside, making it a tighter seal. It's really easy to move things down. But on the way up, all of that air wants to get out, and eventually it's too much, and it breaks the seal, so it burps air, and then water slips in. So anything you're sending back up has to be double bagged, ziplocked, or it'll get wet. This also presented some problems for those of us who had GoPro cameras. They're really good diaphragm cameras. They can withstand pressure from the outside. But what happens when you have to recharge that camera down in the habitat? You open that thing up, and if you were to close it up again, it would be exerting all of that pressure from the inside out, and they're just not built for that. So we had to either just send them up to be charged, or if you made the mistake and opened them down in the habitat, you'd have to send it back up, opened up, so that it could equalize. Oh, and the marshmallows were awesome. They got smushed, so they're like almost like a gummy bear. I'd go back just for that. Okay, and this is not crew nap time. There are unique health problems in that type of environment. It's very hot, it's very humid, you're under pressure. So every night before bed, we had to fill our ears with a solution of 1/2 isopropyl alcohol and vinegar, and just kind of let it soak, and then get it back out again so that we didn't get furry stuff growing in our heads. This is back at Linares, some of the agricultural experiments. And here we're experimenting with the Borg suit, which is a new analog spacesuit that I've developed, and Linares liked enough that they decided to keep it. Talk about that a little bit more. My other big thing is food. Space food sucks. It does. A lot of it's really, really good, but over a long period of time it can become monotonous. And the dehydrated food, no matter how well you try to hydrate it, it can do a number on your digestive system. And also for purposes of morale, it's good to have, I found, fresh baked goods. Nobody ever says no. So we made cheddar muffins and fresh butter powder. Oh, I'll talk about that later. That was something that didn't go as well. Let's talk, how are we doing on time? Perfect. EVAs, big part of any analog. This is NPRS. It's very Marsley. Doesn't get better than that. That's a video. We don't have time to play that. Linares in the Mars yard. Very good environment because they can control the level of light. So if you want to do a nighttime mission in a safe environment, they can just turn off the lights, and you're good to go. Linares again. And that's high seas. Those were my favorite EVAs. Out on the lava fields with Bailey. And that's looking down the slope towards Mauna Kea. Okay. And there's the opportunity for other experiments like using satellite imagery to find new features that might be worth investigating. We did some of that at high seas. Can't really see it. You can see a little dot there as we zoom in. But what is that? What is that? That could be interesting. So we planned a route. We got lost. It's easy to do out on the lava fields because you can't see very far. But fortunately, we had Baby Shark, the drone, to send up and look around and tell us where we were. But we found it.
Wow.
So from a Google satellite image, we were able to locate something that big and navigate our way to it. And immediately did the dumb thing, which is to sit up. I don't know how deep it was. I really don't know. We probably shouldn't have done that, but it was fun.
Don't tell Michaela.
But that's how the heck she knows. But the other thing at high seas is lava tubes. And this is one of the reasons I'm so excited about the work they're doing in chill ice, because they're working with lava tubes. And this is why they're cool. You find like a little opening out of the lava fields, you crawl down in there, and you find something like this. Okay, the light was right. It's all new. I don't know, I might delete it later. Here one of my colleagues is making 3D imagery of caves, similar to what they've done in chill ice. And I want you to notice the helmet. You see how we're kind of cheating there and it's cracked open? There's a reason for that. See how fogged up that helmet is? That is a problem that is endemic to just about all of the analog spacesuits that the different analogs use. They have really bad fogging problems. And I'm not pitching the corpse suit, but it was designed around one engineering challenge, and that's preventing fogging. You can see more fogging there. Just kind of a safety issue, especially down in lava tubes. And there's that white stuff that we're talking about. I don't know what it is. I was just Michaela's pony. I carried stuff. It's interesting because it looks like this white dusty stuff, but you can come back a few days later and it's not in the same place. So they don't know if it's mineralogical, if it's alive, if it's like a slime mold, but Michaela Musilova is looking into it and she'll get back to us. Okay, really quickly about food. Analog food. Okay, MDRS is all the dried stuff. It's okay. I mean, it's not great, it's okay. People have done experiments. We tried MREs, military food. It's good for stuff that's designed to survive jungle heat, Arctic cold, and being dropped from an airplane. But living off of it for months and months could be challenging. We experimented with insect protein. Silkworm pupae, they're like Rice Krispies. They're actually pretty awesome. Throw a little sugar on them, and they're like Rice Krispies. Cricket flour doesn't taste like anything. It's a good, you can't use it like flour to make bread, but it's a good protein additive to just about anything. We also tried boiled zebra tarantulas. I would not do that again. Another experiment was making a homebrew version of Soylent. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's a powder that you can reconstitute, and it has all of the nutrition necessary to keep a person alive. Our brand of that is called generic lipo-enhanced organic base, or LOP for short.
It's not green. Why is it green?
It was not good. It would keep you alive, but after eating it for 6 months, you might not want to be.
Did you just add sugar?
Yeah. I mean, it helps. Every bit helps. And this gets back to some other food issues, mostly about with Neptune and the change in pressure. You lose your sense of taste. Food gets densified if you didn't make it down there. It gets transferred down. And the other thing is cooking times and temperatures. At the surface, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, right? Down there, it's 113 degrees Celsius to get it boiling. So if you think about how many recipes we use that use boiling water as a benchmark for how much thermal energy you put into something to make the food things happen, it all gets kind of knocked to kilter a little bit when the environment that you're currently living in doesn't behave the same way. So we had to be really, really careful with heating water because it was just too hot. It was too hot.
Yeah.
Oh, Bailey, we're doing inventory. Our favorite thing. Good times. I'm just showing some of the culinary things that happen in high seas. Now this, is Elliot here? No, he's not. Oh. Yeah, there he is, in the back. So he's brilliant because he figured out a way to take scrambled egg powder, flour, some dried vegetables, and make a pretty good omelet, which is what that's supposed to be. First time wasn't great. It looked like a raw chicken cutlet. You can use that picture right here. Yeah, it's a good picture. Just examples of things to make, but really this is what making fresh food's all about. It's a huge crew morale issue. Right, thanks. Bring people together over food so that you can bond and have happy food things happening. Yes. Yeah. Making bread, Ari's in the microwave. You can make bread in the microwave, by the way. Pancakes, fruit dinners. Okay. So this is what this was. I did something that nobody's ever done, at least that we know of in an analog before.
It was a fire hazard.
Creme brulee. Yep. You can make creme brulee in an analog. Okay. Morale issues. Anytime you get a group of highly capable, dedicated, rare and go people in a confined space for a long period of time, there are going to be morale issues. So I found that it's helpful to keep people busy, but to make a point to check in every day, at least once, whether it's over a meal or some other program time, to do something fun. Because it helps maintain crew cohesion and help build that temporary consensus culture that allows you to be successful in your mission. These are the main lessons that I've learned from all the different analogs I've done. Space food's pretty bad. We need to do better. There's lots of smart people. I'm really excited about some of the work Cyan Proctor did when she went to high seas. I built on some of what she did, but there are smart people looking at space food. Algae, right? Elliot, where'd he go? Analog spacesuits can be very challenging. Fogging issues. Some of you might have the opportunity to check out the Borg suit later. We'll see if we can make that happen. And again, high-performing teams need to stay busy and socially engaged, or bad things happen. So be nice and play games. We can take questions. That's from MDR. You see, but I have a question slide from everyone I went to, so there's more. That's not too many. That's what And my favorite questions page comes from High Seas because the picture itself raises so many questions. That's character build. So happy to take your questions. Go ahead.
Yeah. Talk briefly about high-performance teaming, and my understanding of that is it usually involves the process of forming, storming, and norming. How is the storming process handled if it's part of a normal high-performance team building process?
So what in my experience has worked best is that I figure out who's going to be on my team a year in advance before we're boots on ground or boots in water or whatever. And you work together remotely, but on a regular basis. And as you get closer to that mission date, you might pick up the tempo to deal with logistics issues, but also make a point to not just always be talking about planning and logistics, but to try and do some activities where you get to know each other a little bit. So to do as much forming and storming before you actually get there and hopefully get to the norming. I've supported, I've been on, but I've supported missions where people didn't know each other and never met until they actually got to the analog. Not a single one of them went well. So best advice is to take your time, but to back plan so that you have ample time to do that necessary socialization and make sure that your crew members are a good fit before you spend 2 weeks in a tin can.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I was curious about your comments about the pressure differential and taking stuff up and down. And I'm just wondering if any thought was ever given to having a vacuum pump chamber down in the hab or to equalize the equipment before you send it up.
We suggested engineering something like that, and I think it could be done. To have a good, you could even use kind of a reverse bike pump thing to suck the innards down to the surface pressure and then send it up. The people who run that particular facility, they're lovely people, but they're a bunch of crabby 70-year-olds, and they didn't want us touching their stuff. So that's a really good experiment with somebody who's a diver and working in a habitat, like the gentleman who spoke about the one in Slovakia.
Right.
That'd be something really good to try there, because you always need to bring stuff up and down. Good solution. Yes, sir.
Hello. So regarding the food makeup, so I have allergies to nuts and shellfish, which nuts are usually known as a protein for people who are on vegetarian diets. Insects are also they have some proteins that are related to shellfish, so sometimes people with shellfish allergies can't eat insects. Is there a future where people with allergies such as mine would be able to go on missions like this? Can that be planned for, or stuff like
I'm
that?
one of them. I'm allergic to soy and pretty much every other bean, and it's in everything. So it is entirely possible for people with food allergies. Now, space agencies like NASA, if you wanted to apply for HERA, that's an elimination criteria right there because they just don't want to deal with people's food issues, which is why analog astronautics is so wonderful because it's an opportunity for people like you and me to get involved. And all you have to do is screen all the food beforehand. And it's, for all the prepackaged stuff, particularly like in MDRS or high Cs, they have ingredients. And so as a crew, you figure out for each meal what ingredients you'll make. You'll make a starch, you'll make a protein, you might make some vegetables, and then everybody's diet can be accommodated by how you combine it. So at high Cs, we had a vegetarian as a part of our crew. We just make stuff, and we'd have a meat and a non-meat option to mix in. So it's by thinking ahead and with a thoughtful, accommodating crew, you can definitely make that happen.
Okay, got it. And then in a situation like in a long-term mission, to reduce the risk, would those accommodations be made so that everyone can eat everything on the mission, just to make sure that if in some case the allergen food is destroyed or something, that person will have to start.
So if you're talking about a long-term mission, it's either going to be a space agency or if you're talking about like a long-term analog mission, unless you're a part of it and helping plan it, unfortunately it's way easier for whoever's in charge of those things to select people out if they're not compatible with the food than to put in the extra effort to make the food compatible with everything. But with every analog I've been to, it's possible. So I know we're out of time, but
Got another minute.
we got one more minute?
Yeah.
Okay, but before we do that, actually I've got a question that I want to ask Bailey. Bailey, is it your birthday?
Oh, yeah.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bailey. Happy birthday to you. Should I do 9.5?
And this is why it's really important to go on analog missions. You see amazing people who will make your birthday really special.
Awesome.
Okay, well, okay, sorry. Hold on, sorry. Any other questions for Paul?
We'll be around. If you have questions we didn't get to, I'm happy to answer them. Thanks so much for
Thank you, guys. Yeah,